If you just jumped into the world of Blackmagic, then you might be wondering how to get the best cinematic images possible. And if that's you, then you've come to the right place.
This is a simple video giving insight to the settings I use when shooting narrative work and why. Like I've always said, it's good to know your roots. So as a filmmaker, I believe it's important to know where cinema got its values from. Not to go too deep into detail, but I'd like to share some history with you right now.
In the old days of filmmaking, there was a lineup of issues that led to 24 frames per second becoming the standard. First was the invention of hand-cranked cameras, delivering inconsistent frame rates since capturing was dependent on how fast or slow you could crank the camera. This led to films outputting frame rates anywhere from 14 to 26 frames per second. Soon after, technology would prevail and the Vitaphone process was born.
Synchronizing sound to picture became how you'd shoot your movie. This gave us a standard of 24 frames per second since 60 frames per second was expensive and film stock wasn't cheap. Fast forward to today and it hasn't really changed at all. It just stuck. So if you've ever wondered why Hollywood shoots 24 frames per second, now you know.
Before I hit the record button, there's lots of options we need to dial in first to make sure we're getting the most out of our Blackmagic 6K Pro. So let's go through these right now.
After powering on my camera, I head over to the record settings. By the way, these settings are mostly for narrative projects, so keep that in mind. I select BRAW as my codec, followed by constant bitrate at 12:1 ratio. Since it's the smallest file size, most manageable, and still holds a ton of information for color grade. Side note, 12:1 will absolutely be fine for most projects. Unless you want even more information, then I'd recommend going higher. Next, I typically go for 6K resolution. I go 6K because I downscale to 4K. This is good for many reasons.
Number one being that I can reframe my shot if I need to, and number two, downscaling makes digital noise less noticeable. Next, I make sure film or log is selected. This is under the dynamic range settings. Film or log color profile is designed to maximize your dynamic range and give you lots more information to color correct and grade your footage. If you want to know how I speed grade with BRAW, then check out this video I made previously. These settings will get us going, but before we back out of the menu, let's take a look at a couple more settings.
In monitor, with LCD and HDMI, make sure focus assist is always selected. In setup, I select shutter angle. This is traditionally how cinema cameras or film cameras read shutter speed. You can opt out, but if that's what you're familiar with, make sure you select shutter speed.
Lastly is calibration and remapping. On the last page of setup, you'll find 4 settings: reset camera settings, remap pixels, calibrate monitor sensor, and calibrate screen.
Before I start any project, I initiate 2 of the 4 settings. I remap pixels and I calibrate the motion sensor. This pixel calibration feature allows the camera to realign the light output of each pixel, resulting in a smooth, clean image under changing environmental conditions. Well, that's at least what Blackmagic has wrote directly on their manual.
Motion sensor calibration is to recalibrate your horizon meter, which is a super handy tool if you are a handheld shooter. Once that's all out the way, we can now set up our shot.
Good old Hollywood and cinema says we should shoot 24 frames per second, so let's set that up first. The rule to shutter speed is to double your frame rate. So if we apply this to 24 frames per second, it would give us a shutter speed of 1/148th of a second or 180 degree shutter angle. More on shutter angles and speeds in another video. Stay tuned. My rule for ISO is this: always try to keep ISO at or under its native value, which with a pocket camera is always under 400 or 3200 ISO.
Anything higher will result in a noisy image. ISO can be maintained with the use of ND filters and or f-stop. Last is white balance. I usually keep a white balance card on me or light meter. I'd highly recommend one or the other, even both if you can. A white balance card will help in a pinch, or if you're a run and gun shooter like me. Just point the camera at the card and bingo. All the pocket cameras do a pretty good job of autocorrect, so give that a shot.
The light meter will give you the most accurate grade out of them all. I use a LumaPower light meter. It's not the best or the cheapest, but for now it works great. LumaPower is a reflective and incident meter. It works for both video and photo. I use the Cine video and color temperature modes that are amazing. I'm extremely pleased with my results, and I recommend this light meter to everyone. So with that said, I really hope this video gives you guys a good starting point. I highly recommend experimenting with all of these settings. Break the rules a bit, see what does work, what doesn't work. Shoot with higher ISOs or weird frame rates. Understand the Pocket 6K Pro's limitations.
What I'm saying is just experiment to understand the camera or these settings even better. So, what are your settings? Did this video help take your understanding of the Pocket 6K any further? Share your tips or give feedback in the comment section below. The best way to support this channel is to hit the subscribe button and ding the bell. If you're interested in gear we used in this video, please use our affiliate links below when making your purchases to support the channel. If you love the visuals in this video, make sure to visit our website at wulfandgang.com to purchase some of the digital assets I use in all my videos, from LUTs to transitions and even merch. As always, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next week.
When I praise, I just do my dance. When I worship, I just lift my hands.